Guys, welcome back to Coliseum Forum, the coolest comics book forum on the internet. It's been a while since I've done this. I'm a little bit out of practice. And so to get back in practice, I decided to do this with some of the biggest names in comics right now. Robert Kirkman, you may know him from his work on Battle Pope. We've got Josh Williamson, who famously for basically writing every comic at DC right now. And then Daniel Warren Johnson, who is probably one of my all-time favorite comic book artists. Extremity. I almost credited him with Dark Ride. That's not even his book, but do a Murder Falcon, Space Bullet. These guys, they are way, way more famous than I will ever be. And we're here to talk about the Energon Universe, which is the new shared universe where they brought the Hasbro properties over to Skybound. I don't want to spoil too much, but we're just going to jump right into this. So I know you guys probably can't talk a lot about the business side of it. I'm sure it was a lot of like bourbon and scotch smoke filled rooms as you guys kind of work the rights out for Transformers and Void Rivals and such. But I mean, what can you give us kind of who approached who? Was it Skybound going to Hasbro, or Hasbro kind of coming to you guys?
It was very much Skybound going to Hasbro. There were a lot of rumors going around that that the license was up for grabs for Transformers and GI Joe, and that Hasbro was considering options. And through some back channels, we figured out that they were that those rumors were actually true, and then started reaching out through official channels to be like, hey, would you be willing to accept a pitch from Skybound? And they very much were. And then worked with Sean Makowitz and the team at Skybound to scramble to produce a pitch. And we wanted to really kind of, put our best foot forward and kind of impress as much as we could. And so we commissioned a bunch of new original art to put in our pitch.
Including me.
Daniel Warren Johnson drew a pretty rad drawing of, I'm just going to say it was of Bruticus. It was fucking great. And can we cuss on this? I apologize.
You can. It's YouTube. Yeah.
I asked at the wrong time. I'm supposed to ask before, but anyway, hopefully we can use that as a variant cover or something at some point. But yeah, and then we put this whole thing together, and Hasbro seemed to like it, and then here we are.
So how did the idea of starting it as this secret project with Void Rivals, where did that kind of idea kind of seed and kind of come to fruition?
Yeah, that was something that I had been kicking around for a while. As I don't know. I love Transformers and GI Joe, and they're I don't know. You sit around with buddies, and you're like, oh, if I could ever do this, I'd do it this way. And I just thought a cool way to kind of come into a storyline like this would be to trick people into thinking I was doing a new original comic, and then woo, surprise, there's a Transformer in it. And, I always try to come at things from a fan's perspective. And from a fan's perspective, that would have blown my mind. Like if Josh Williamson and Daniel Warren Johnson were doing a comic together and it came out and there was a surprise Transformer at the end of it, oh, instantly my favorite comic ever. And so it seemed like a really fun idea, but it wasn't until we were in that mad scramble to put together that pitch for Hasbro that I actually kind of had to nail down, maybe it's called Void Rivals, and it's about these two alien races fighting. Let's do that. And then not to get too ahead of myself, but later on, it was a fun backwards engineering kind of exercise where I was trying to work with Lorenzo De Felici to shape Void Rivals into something that felt like it could have actually lived on the toy shelves next to Transformers and GI Joe in the 80s. And it was something that that we were kind of adapting a non-existing old cartoon and an old toy line, and hopefully that feel is actually there. But that feel to it that kind of reminds me of Transformers and GI Joe of old is one of the things that has made it one of the most fun projects I've ever worked on. I absolutely love writing Void Rivals. It's kind of the best thing ever.
So Void Rivals has been amazing. It's been a super easy sell at the comic book shop. It's probably my favorite comic coming out right now until tomorrow when D-Dub's Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers #1 hits the stands. So let's kind of go a little bit further into the story. So you guys pitch Hasbro. You're like, hey, we have this idea. It's Void Rivals. It's going to be kind of lead into this shared universe. How do you draft these two guys who are arguably two of the most talented people in comics right now?
I mean, they've both done great work at Skybound for years now, and are definitely like the top tier of Skybound talent that we love working with. I have to hand it to Sean Makowitz. He has really built great relationships with the talent that we've worked with. We try to provide talent with a great environment with which to do comics. And these guys seem to enjoy working with us. I don't know. I could let them speak to the opposite if they feel that that's the truth. But they really were the first choices that came to mind. Josh is uniquely suited to G.I. Joe. It's a property that he absolutely loves. His work on other books shows that, he can handle massive universes and big characters and, make old existing characters feel new. And then, when it comes to old Daniel, like what can't you say about this guy? Is there anything he can't do? But I think that his main strength is that he can take, a thing like Murder Falcon and make it one of the most emotional stories you'll ever read. He has this like bombastic, awesome sensibility where he's like, here's some cool visuals and this stuff is going to blow you away. But he always kind of sneaks in there and makes you cry. And I think that ability to kind of slide in unsuspected and give you a tearful moment is a kind of a superpower of his. And it was something that we thought would make Transformers, I don't know, like both Transformers and G.I. Joe, like these are, deep stories with rich characters that you can tell emotional stories with while also, doing cool stuff. And so, it's something that's important to us to try and maintain from those brands. But anyway, someone other than me talk, I feel like I'm taking up all the time and I can tell how annoying Josh and Daniel are.
Oh,
Well,
shucks.
I just like listening. You're just talking about how great we are, so I can just sit
Yeah.
here for
Yeah,
whatever.
keep going.
I'm totally
Keep
fine.
going.
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
is
I'm on
super
the deadline here. Come on, keep vamping.
The other day I was cleaning out my my office. Yesterday, actually, I was cleaning out part of my my old office. I keep notes of a lot of times I'm doing different calls and stuff, and then I found one of the notebooks I had that was a call I had with Sean. And at the very top, it was like total coincidence. Very top, it said Daniel is in for Transformers, and I had it underlined. And I was like, oh yeah, it's like a nice little moment. It's just like I remember that call and we had talked about it, and I was like, holy crap, that book would look amazing. Like that book is gonna look so cool if Daniel actually does it. And I was like, Sean and I would talk about it every once in a while, and then yeah, when he finally was like, Daniel's in, like you could already kind of see it in your head, and then Daniel went so much further with it. It's like to what Robert was saying, I always feel like Daniel is kind of like this like heavy metal Pixar. Like every time you go to a stuff, like that's really how I feel about like Murder Falcon in particular. Like when you read Murder Falcon, it gets you like it's so emotional. Like his emotional storytelling is so strong. Like people focus on like, yo, this guy can draw amazing like landscapes. It's like there's nobody that draws a Star Destroyer better than Daniel, right? But it's so much of the like emotion and the heart that he puts into his work, and it is that kind of like Pixar sort of like vibe to it, So yeah, I'm super pumped. And I've actually had to read ahead on it. Like I told Daniel when I read issue 2, I wrote him and I was just like, damn, Daniel, like this is good. It's a good comic book.
Yeah.
You got me a little bit.
And I appreciated that because I didn't have any feedback on issue 2 at the time, after it had all been put together. So like no peer feedback. So it felt good to get that. Thanks, dude.
No. So I've read some issue 1 and I've seen some of the later pages and stuff. And I think this, for Transformers fans, it's going to be a little bit different than what they're expecting.
Yeah.
How do you?
Oh yeah, the fans on the TF boards, they haven't been converted yet. Give them a few issues.
Oh, they will be. But you've made some decisions with characters. Obviously, we're not going to spoil it. But how do you think the fans on those boards are going to react tomorrow morning when they hit the comic book shops?
Oh, I mean, I love you, TF 2005, but I didn't make the book for you. I made the book for like myself and like what I want to see in a Transformers comic, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
what you see is what you get. And I think I have some. Well, these guys have been stroking me off for the whole time, so you heard it. You heard it here first. This is a really good comic book, and you should buy it. It's that good. Sorry, it just is.
Well, that's what you
That-
have to
that-
do though. Like when you're going into those properties, like at the end of the day, like, and you're a fan, I'm a fan, you have to make it
Yeah.
for yourself, because that's one of
Yeah.
my rules about working in comics is like, if I don't like what I'm working on, there's a problem. Like I messed up somewhere. And so you really have to start there in a lot of ways. And so it's like you clearly do love it. We all love this property. And Robert, when I saw Robert last week, we talked about this a little bit, where it's like, you do want to say like, listen, we love it too. So you gotta like trust us. Like come on this wild ride with us. There's gonna be days where it's gonna get crazy. We might drive you nuts, but I promise you, it's all coming from a place of love.
Yeah, and
So-
I
Yeah.
think I think especially with Daniel's first issue, you get a sense that there is a genuine love, respect, and admiration for these characters. The way he characterizes Optimus Prime so well and so like dead on with the way his portrayal, as a fan should be, shows just how much he cares about these characters. But in the process of putting them on this pedestal and showing, how amazing they are and how much we revere them as fans ourselves, you have to show them the respect of like digging in and telling a really good and compelling story with them. And, you're going to break some eggs along the way, but it's going to result in something that's like really cool and really memorable and really exciting. And so, while there may be some things along the way where you're like, wish that hadn't happened to that character, and maybe it'd be great if that person wasn't dead.
Listen, you're the king of that, though. I mean, let's be fair.
Sure.
As a comics reader, like how many times I've read a Robert Kirkman book and I've been like, oh, okay. Like I just try not to get attached at this point. It's just gonna lead to heartbreak. So
Look, everything goes back to Transformers 86, the movie, like
fair. Yeah.
it's like we all, I mean, I don't know, that movie is beloved, but were you thrilled when Optimus Prime died? Were you like, oh, I'm so glad this guy's dead 15 minutes into this movie. This is exactly what I came to the theater to see.
What
No,
a way to go
I'm
out,
Iron
though.
Man.
They spend so much money on that death. Whoa, so good.
Yeah.
Do you know right now I'm working on a heavy metal cover of the death of Optimus Prime. I don't know if I'm going to be able to release it by tomorrow, but we'll see.
I can't wait.
So
Sorry,
go
that's
back to
neither here nor there.
they kill Ironhide. He doesn't even get any dialogue in the movie. They just kill him on a ship. Like you see him
Yeah.
for 2 seconds, you're like, oh, Ironhide, and then he's dead, and then they just move on.
Yeah.
Prowl
So,
gets the mouth smoke.
The mouth
Oh.
smoke, yeah.
The mouth
mouth
smoke, just horrifying.
It was horrifying.
We've got Transformers coming out tomorrow, but I don't think we told people why Josh Williams is here. And if you haven't read
What am I
any
doing?
of what's going on, we should probably tell everybody you're doing some GI Joe and Cobra related books. Not quite GI Joe yet. I don't know if you guys can elaborate on that at all. But we know for a fact we've got Duke coming out in December, and then Cobra Commander coming out in January.
We're not allowed,
I
I'm
don't know
not
if
allowed to
that's
talk about it still.
Yeah, not at all.
Talk about it. Oh, come on. So yeah, I don't know. I mean,
No, it's fun. I've been obsessed with G.I. Joe for a long time. Even before I got this job, I had certain story ideas and things that I like wanted to do, and things that always sort of I don't say bothered me, but like for example, I was always like, how did Cobra even form? Like, how did you get all these groups that clearly do not like each other? How was it that Cobra Commander was even able to bring these groups together? And that always sort of bugged me. That, and then I was always curious about the actual formation of G.I. Joe and the origins of it and how it connected to Cobra. And so when I started talking to Sean McAvoy and Robert about the different ideas they had, all the ideas aligned with each other, and so we were able to build out this awesome connection to the Transformers. It's tough to talk about specifics on it still, because the connective tissue to Transformers, I don't want to ruin those scenes that's in Daniel's book, but there are things that happen in that book that will then spin off, and that's where we start getting involved with G.I. Joe.
yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind that the Energon Universe is meant to be a starting point. We're really trying to, pick up right from the beginning and be an entry point for anyone who, you know, may not be familiar with these characters, and also as a new beginning for anyone who's, you know, a longtime fan of these characters. And so that's why, instead of starting with a big G.I. Joe book where everything's already happening, we're starting with a Duke book and a Cobra Commander book, which very much are, you know, the opening minutes of those characters in this universe, like where their stories really kind of kick off and start to get interesting. And, you know, they're definitely going to be going into some familiar territory as time progresses, but we're going to take our time getting there and really make you get to know those characters in a new and, you know, possibly more robust way than you knew before we start getting into familiar territory.
Yeah,
So-
and with
so is
Duke,
it
like, we're
fair
able
to-
to use we use Duke as sort of a vehicle to explore like his entry into this Energon universe. And it's the same with Cobra Commander. Like it's him and him entering into and seeing that they're both on interesting journeys where they're both realizing like what they thought was true is not true. And some of that is because of the connections with Transformers. But really, it allows us to an origin of G.I. Joe and origin of Cobra and show how these two forces get built and then how they collide with each other.
Well, there was my next question. I was going to ask if it could I infer that like we're going to see like the formation of G.I. Joe like as the Energon universe goes forward?
Yeah.
So it sounds okay. Very, very cool. That's
Would
awesome.
it be weird if we never did G.I. Joe?
No, it just it would be really weird. That's like when I think a lot of people when they saw the solicitation, it's like, why isn't this just G.I. Joe? Now it makes so much more sense. That's very cool.
Yeah, and I think there'll be some surprises in there. I mean, I still think, like we said, I always want to honor what's come before, but we still have to make it our own. And still definitely be like you've already read Transformers #1, so you know from reading that there are twists and turns, and Duke and Cobra Commander are very similar. There's twists and turns in there. There are things that you won't expect, and I really put a lot of thought into both books, obviously, and I really thought about one of the tricks was to take all the different versions of it and try to essentially cherry pick in some ways, but then at the same time, it was like, what is the best version of this story for us? And so going through and picking bits and pieces from, the cartoon, the comics, just going through all of it and being like, what's going to work best for the story that we're building.
So, I mean, for both you and I mean, obviously with Robert's book that, he's doing a lot of, those are new characters kind of interacting with the older franchises. But with what you and Daniel are doing, you guys are working with, something that has, 40 years of lore tied to it. Are you like you said, are you kind of like cherry picking the things that you were like, this is dope, hated that, this is dope, nope, don't like that, and then kind of rebuilding a new, universe, and this is for both of you guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Feel like that is
so like it'll feel familiar, but like something new.
Yeah, I mean that's it though, because I don't want to repeat it. Like I want it to still be ours,
Right.
Yeah. Daniel, go ahead. I've talked a lot. It's your turn.
It's all good. I think you can read Transformers #1 and get a good vibe as to what I don't really dig. I'll let that play out as the next 24 hours happens. But I can't honestly say that I have really. I'm not like Josh in the sense that like I've thought about storylines or like what I wanted to do or specific things that I wanted characters to say or do. It's almost like in my mind, it's like unless I'm doing it, I like feel like I can't give it the brain power,
Yeah.
Because you think of these cool moments just like in your car while driving your kid to school. Man, it'd be awesome if I could ever draw Optimus Prime doing like X, Y, and Z. But then that's like a visual moment that has to be earned in storyline and has to make sense and everything has to line up. And so it gets a little overwhelming. So when you sign on the dotted line, I'm going to do Transformers. That's when the gears really started turning. And honestly, before I really ever thought of any sort of ideas or like plot points, I was just mostly going off of a vibe. I was trying to like make something like a tone wise that was very consistent. And I will be totally honest, I did use the '86 movie, the animated movie, kind of as my vibe Bible. I personally, like just me as a fan, is my favorite piece of media across all Transformers stuff is the '86 movie. I mean, the art design, the music, the background art, the animation, it all just kind of seems to like really just all seems to like all the lights were pointing down in that one point and made this like amazing thing. So when I was giving Mike Spicer not notes, but just like kind of like an entry point, an entry welcome email, I basically gave him screenshots of the 86 movie, and I was like, please make it look like this. So, yeah.
Oh,
I
in
did
terms
that
of
the
like
other
color
day
and
with
things like that.
the. That's funny with the colors on Cobra. I had to send them screenshots the other day because I was like, "This is the only way to explain this." It's just like
Wait,
screenshots from
what did
things
you
that I
use?
needed. I cannot tell you.
So
Secrets.
I've got to ask, when you guys are like scripting these characters, I mean, because when you think of like Optimus Prime, you think of Peter Cullen. When you think of Duke, when you think of Cobra, like we know what these guys sound like. Like,
Mhm.
is it, at least for me, like if I was working on a project like this, I couldn't write these characters without like Cobra Commander, like literally screaming, like,
Mhm.
in my head. Has that been your kind of experience, or do you kind of does Cobra have like a different? Should I be reading Cobra Commander #1 with Cobra Commander sounding completely different than I've ever heard him sound before?
I think he is a little different than what you've heard before. I mean, I definitely looked at the cartoon. Obviously, like that was a major piece of it. But this is a. I think when people read Cobra Commander #1, they're gonna be really surprised at how this Cobra Commander is. It's not what you're going to expect. Um, but that being said, I definitely have that voice in my head. That's the sound. Like he has obviously that star screaming, like that distinct, voice. Um, but yeah, I think we will be surprised when they get in there. It's a little different. Like one of the rules that I had with this Cobra Commander, and this is something I don't know if it was actually Robert was the first person that said this. Might have been Macowitz, but like this is a Cobra Commander that doesn't retreat. So it's like once you take that point in mind that he's no longer like the cowardly heel, it's like he's the one that actually he's the heel that stands and stays. That changes a part of his dynamic and how I write him. And then obviously like we talked about before, that Cobra Commander book is a little bit of a horror book, so it's like I made him a little bit creepier in a way. I mean, he's still cunning, and he's still somebody who's like always thinking about what his next move is. So it definitely changed I would say the voice and how I have him talk a little bit. But also, what's part of the story is you're seeing how Cobra Commander becomes Cobra Commander, really, how he becomes like the Cobra Commander that forms Cobra. So his voice that he has in the first issue versus his voice he'll have later will be different. Like he's going to be a bit of a different person because just like Duke, they're both going through an emotional arc and a change. So even the first issue, he might not be completely recognizable, but that might be different by the time he gets to the ending.
And then
It's been fun writing it. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. No, that's absolutely incredible. I'm bummed that we can't talk more about GI Joe and or the GI Joe and or Duke and Cobra, because I'm a huge fan of them as well. So it's always weird where you have to like, yeah, it's this, but like we can't talk more about that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I'm trying to
In
get
due time. In due
in
time.
due time.
In
Yeah,
due
give me
time.
like a month. Give me like a month or two. It'll be fine.
Well,
Yeah. It's like no. But I mean, Robert and I joke about this all the time. Like my biggest problem working on this has been my patience. Like I am just like I'm always trying to get as many GI Joe and Cobra characters into the books as I can, and they're always telling me no, slow down, stop, because like we have time. Like it's okay to get in here. And I'm like, but I love Firefly. I want Firefly in this issue. They're like, nope, too soon, too soon, too soon.
well, that kind of leads to
Yeah,
my
I
next
want
question.
I want Beachcomber. Sorry. Keep asking your questions. My fault.
No, that's okay. So my question's for Robert. How far out have you guys kind of like at least loosely plotted the Energon universe? Like, do we have like a 2-year roadmap, a 5-year roadmap? Are we just doing this by the seat of our pants? Like, what are we looking at here for Energon universe?
I mean, definitely not by the seat of our pants. I think that we definitely have like rough benchmarks for at least a 2-year roadmap. I think there's some things I'd like to hit beyond that. There's some things that we have planned that we may not be able to fit in the first 2 years. But yeah, I mean, but it's all malleable, like, I came to the table, Sean Makowitz and I sat down before these guys were on board, and we're like, okay, in success, it'd be nice to hit this, and this. But once Josh and Dan came on, like, you got to give these guys the ability to, kind of run their own show and do their own thing. And they've been adding to those plans and changing some of those plans. And so, there's definitely a lot of stuff in place, but it's an evolving universe that is just getting like it's getting better and deeper, and all kinds of like little nooks and crannies are being found along the way. But we're in this for the long haul.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a character that we bring into Duke #2 that was not in any outline, he was not in any plan, but it just made sense for him to come in, and then he became like kind of the co-star with Duke for the 5 issues. Like it wasn't planned that way, but once he got in there and then I started writing him, it made a lot of sense. So there is room for that, where it was like, oh no, this character, like we had never even talked about him at all. But then once I put him in, it just tracked. It made a lot of sense, and then it totally worked out.
This could just be like a blink twice moment if this is accurate, but is this a new character or an existing character? Blink once
Oh,
for
it's an existing character.
okay,
It's an
okay,
existing character. Yeah, yeah.
So I guess that would actually kind of be my next question for Daniel and Joshua. Obviously there are brand new characters in Void Rivals. Do you guys have the opportunity to introduce some new characters to Transformers and to Duke and Cobra?
I want Daniel to go first.
Oh, I want Josh to go first.
I have a couple that I've thought about. I had one that I was gonna do in Duke, and then I ran out of room. I couldn't introduce him. So it's definitely something I would like to do, and it's like I just in my own like nerdiness, you can't tell right now because there's all DC stuff behind me, but I have a ton of G.I. Joe toys in this office. Like there's a lot in here. And so I do think that'd be fun to eventually create a character, bring them in, and then that character get made into a toy. If Hasbro is watching, that's something that'd be cool. But that isn't the goal, though. I want to make sure the character is cool and actually fit into the universe, and I have looked at it and been like, where are there holes that I think would actually make sense when we're creating these like modern characters, and what's a character that was missing, I think. And I did have a character I created, but yeah, we just ran out of room in the Duke book because I didn't want to like take up a lot of page space when it's like this is Duke's book and there's a lot we're covering still. But yeah, eventually I will probably bring in some stuff like new characters.
And then Daniel,
Yeah, it honestly, it's not something that I've really thought about a ton, because it's been really important to me for the first arc of Transformers to just really just bring it back to the basics. And kind of as Josh said, we're trying to go for a kind of like we're just trying to take our time getting places instead of like introducing a whole cast that I would also have to draw. My God, kind of like starting slow and building in and taking time and like really setting up some foundational aspects of these characters that we have known for years. So I will not rule it out in the future, but nothing as of yet.
So
that's funny.
I don't want to put you on the
spot.
spot.
Draw all these characters. Well, go ahead.
I mean, no way am I doing like, oh my God, no way.
Well, that's so funny. Like in Duke, there's a scene where Duke is fighting one person, and then I wrote in the script for Tom Riley, I was like, oh, a bunch of guards show up, and then Tom decided to draw like 20 guards, like all fighting Duke at the same time, and it's awesome. It is great looking, but I was like, yo, you don't have to go so hard, dude. Like it was just a few guards, but it's like 20 guys. It's an awesome page.
So it's just
That's
Duke
awesome.
fighting like 20 guys.
Yeah, it's awesome, Duke. Just straight up. Yeah, you'll see. It looks cool. I'm probably saying too much.
I'm trying to steal as many tidbits as I can. Like hopefully, like so Coliseum Comics. If you guys aren't aware, I mean, Joshua, we've emailed back and forth a little bit, and I'm sure maybe you guys have a little primer of who we are. But we have 10 stores here in Florida, and I'm one of the directors of the company, and I get the opportunity to go in on Wednesdays and like talk to our customers and stuff. And the hype around what you guys are doing right now is like, it's the most excited I've seen people on Wednesday since like probably pre-pandemic, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Oh,
That's
wow.
awesome.
And so I just had an experience like just last week with Void Rivals. Like there's this guy that comes in, when I say guy, like he's probably like a college kid, like 21 to maybe 21, and he's like a huge Batman guy, and he finally comes in, he's wearing like a Transformers t-shirt, and I was like, hey man, do you know about the Energon? Do you know about Void Rivals? And he's like, no, what's that? And I like kind of pitched it to him. I'm like, listen, I can't spoil it for you, but I promise you, like, if you're a Transformers guy, you've got to read this book. And so like I ran in the back and like dug out like the first 3 issues, and I was like, buy these. If you don't like them, you can come back and yell at me. But if you like these, come back and talk to me because there's more. So he goes home, he reads those issues, he comes back, and I'm like, listen, man, there's like a whole new like shared Transformers universe. There's Void Rivals. There's we've got Transformers coming out in a couple of weeks. We've got new GI Joe stuff coming, and this kid like it was like Christmas time. He like lit up like a light bulb. So seeing that energy again in the comic book shop, that's what it's there. That's what we're there for.
We need more people like you. We need more retailers like you. That's awesome. That's a great story. That's beautiful.
That is great. So great.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys. And but really, like the Void Rivals is, I mean, when I got to go to the meeting that you guys held to kind of announce Void Rivals, where it was like #keep the secret, and Phil Boyle, he owns Coliseum of Comics. I went back to him like a kid, like with the Toys R Us catalog. I'm like, we need to order 4 million of these. This is the only. In fact, we're just Coliseum of Void Rivals now. This is the coolest comic book they're going to do this year. And he's like, I don't know. And I'm like, no, like, please, can we do this? And like, listen, if we order this many, like Robert Kirkman will do a video for us. If we do this many, like we might even get a forum. And Phil's like, all right, we'll take a chance. And it paid off for us. Here we are doing our Coliseum Forum with you guys. And it's just been absolutely incredible. I cannot wait for tomorrow morning. I know there are some things that happen in Transformers #1 that people are going to have some opinions about. I can't wait to see those opinions online, good or bad, right? And I can't wait till we can talk more about Duke and Cobra Commander, because that stuff is going to be absolutely incredible. But you guys have super famous comic book creator lives, so I don't want to keep you guys for too much longer. Typically what happens is this shit, you'll see our screen change from us to like a thank you, and if you guys could just hang out for like 2 more seconds, we'll be all set. So guys, thank you so much. Congratulations on the Energon Universe. This is like the coolest thing that's ever happened in the history of comics as far as I'm concerned. So
oh my god,
oh yeah,
that's high praise.
We gotta get a mug that says that. That's what we need now, or a plaque for Robert. a little award, since Daniel's gonna win all the Eisners this year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We got to, when they did the thing for Transformers, I got to go to that one, and I remember seeing some of the pages and just being like, people are gonna have some opinions, and just
well, look,
I'm ready. I'm ready for the opinions. Give them to me.
The most important thing is to have people talking about your book. Like that's what all of these books are designed for. We want people in comic shops going, oh my God, did you see what happened in Duke #1? Did you see what happened in Transformers #4? Like we want exciting things to be happening in every issue of every one of the series in Energon Universe, because when you have that engagement, when you have something to talk about, like that's the real like magic of comics. Like we want people to be invested in these series and invested in this universe, and we're going to be doing some crazy stuff to make sure it happens.
Can I show a very exclusive Coliseum little mini preview that I promise is not a spoiler, Robert?
I'm just going to look like a bad guy if I say no.
Yeah, you just
okay. So here we've got just a face-off.
Oh, look at
between.
Oh, that's so good.
This is between a seeker that shall not be named, and of course the #1 star, OP.
That's Bumblebee, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm a huge when I say I'm like a ridiculous fanboy, this is I don't know if, yeah, that's my tattoo. This is the cover from the stupid background's messing it up, but it's a Statue of Liberty with graffiti that says "Humans are wimps," and it's from the issue of Marvel Transformers from the year and month I was born.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, so awesome. The fact that like this is all happening, I can't wait to show my kids this stuff. Like this is really kind of the coolest thing in comics as far as I'm concerned. So guys, thank you so much.
Awesome.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
This has been a ton of fun.
Yes. And all people that are wondering why my head is always pointed down, I am actively working on the art to Transformers right now that I cannot show
tried
you.
to call you out on that, but then Josh started talking, and I was like, okay, we'll just let him work. So yeah.
No, you can call me out on it. Yes, these are the tools that are working on this page right now. Deadlines. No joke.
Yeah. And if my head was down at any point during this, it was because I fell asleep.
Oh. Wait, is that commentary on my hosting abilities?
It's commentary on my age.
This is a true story. While we're talking, I got a text from my producer that goes, "Robert hasn't spoken in a while, just a note." I was like, cool.
Oh my god.
He read my
Amazing.
mind.
No, it's the thing though. Like
Amazing.
I've talked to some like really big hitters in comics. You know, I've talked. I've talked to a lot of really cool creators. Talking to you this is the first time I've ever been like, holy crap. I mean, you've written Invincible is legitimately my all-time favorite comic, hands down. Like I know I made a ton of Battle Club jokes. Invincible, if you can ask anybody like, what does Billy read? They'll be like, oh, he reads those crappy Power Rangers comics, which I don't think they're crappy. I think they're wonderful. And he loves Invincible. This is a true story. I still haven't read the last 4 issues of Invincible because I'm saving them for like the worst day I've ever had. Like I'm waiting for the worst day ever, and then that's like my break glass in case of emergency. I'm just gonna read the last 4 issues of Invincible.
Well, has the ending been
That is some
spoiled?
commitment.
No. Anytime the ending of Invincible comes up, I'm like, and then I walk away.
Huh.
I still, it's been what, 5 years? I still don't know what happens.
It's been longer than 5
But
years, right?
that breaks my heart. Breaks my
No,
heart.
I need
gotta
to
read
save
those
it. I
issues.
need that. What
Yeah,
if I
they're
go to
real
work
good.
tomorrow? What if I go to work tomorrow and Phil's like, you did such a bad job on that forum, you're fired. That's gonna be the worst day of my life. I'm gonna come home and read Invincible. It's gonna be a little bit better.
I don't want you to associate the ending of Invincible with the worst day of your life.
I love this. This is a great idea.
Yeah.
No, you guys don't. Okay, this is a true thing, and I'm just gonna embarrass myself on the internet, which is what the internet is for. I have actually a few things like that. I have a letter from my grandmother who she raised me. She passed away. It's a letter saving it for the worst day of my life. I have all like these things strategically placed that the day that I'm like, this is the worst, I get to bust out like all these amazing things and hopefully like turn it around and like make it like, one of the medium worst days of my life, right? Like just say I got a letter from my grandmother, I got Invincible, I got there's some other things in there I'm saving. Yeah, I mean everybody should have that
not watch the last episode of the Battlestar Galactica series or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've already kind of worked this out. Like, so my wife is super into the Invincible show. She loves Adam and Eve. And she's like, what are you gonna do when they get towards like the end? And I was like, well, you're just gonna have to watch it without me. We're not gonna do it. So
That's awesome.
Well, if this is how you want to do things, that's great.
I've had this same conversation with customers, and they all think I'm insane. They're like, I read all 3 omnibuses in like a week, and I'm like, yeah, I can't do it.
I'm not necessarily going to call you insane. I think this is a great plan, possibly if it works out, but you never know. You could get hit by a bus tomorrow. I mean, never know. No, you never know what your last day is, and I feel like you're denying yourself a lot of good stuff. And also, you may have one of those fortunate lives where your worst day ever never happens. And you also, could be you could have your worst day ever and not recognize it as your worst day ever. You could be like, oh, this is a bad day. Some real bad stuff happened, but I don't know. I'm sure there's something worse coming. And then deny yourself forever.
Yeah, see, the counter argument to that is tomorrow, because Robert Kirkman's like, oh, you're never going to have a worse day. I read I grabbed the last volume of Invincible. I read, actually on all the issues, but I grabbed the last volume. I read it. And then the next day I flip my car and I'm like, come on, Robert Kirkman. This is what I was saving the books for.
Oh, so now that's the problem. Now is you curse yourself. Yeah. So now you've associated the worst day and the Invincible that what happened. It's going to be a chicken or the egg situation. So it's going to be like, if you read the ending, you finally decide to read, does then like karma get you that day?
That's what I mean.
The thing is going to happen.
I think what we can take away from this for sure is that if you die and you have some last moments before you're gone, like you're in the middle of the road and it's like the blackness is coming in on the sides, you're going to have Robert Kirkman's face like right in the middle.
Like the last thing I see.
Yeah,
your life flashes before your eyes and it's just Robert going, you should have read it?
Hold on, I'll give you this image.
Yeah.
Should have read those comics.
Yeah.
Dude, it's gonna get spoiled. I mean, of all of this stuff, it's gonna get spoiled for you at some point.
You don't understand.
Take control of your life, sir. Take control of your life and just read it. It's very good. It's a very good ending. It's gonna get spoiled. I can't believe
I don't want it to be over. In fact, as we got closer to the anniversary, I was like, there's no way that he doesn't make more new Invincible, and then I can save that, and then I'll actually read the ending. And then we didn't really get new Invincible, and so it's just in the short box waiting for me.
Here's my challenge to you.
Okay.
you will live a significantly better life if you limit these things to one a year. So Invincible was your thing for a year. Then I challenge you at the end of that year to read Invincible. And then for the next year, find something new that you're going to deny yourself until you have the worst day of your life. And then your life will become a journey of trying to find a new best thing to withhold from yourself every single year. But you won't be denying yourself those things forever. And every year you'll have the joy of discovering something new and building it up into this thing that you can hold back from yourself. That's
I think I'm
what
coming off.
you do.
I love that advice, and I think I'm coming off a little crazier than I actually am. So, okay, this is how much I loved Invincible. When Invincible was coming out, I couldn't read it monthly because it would just make me mad. Like it wasn't enough. Like I wanted to like I wanted an Invincible buffet, not like the Invincible appetizer, right? So I would, for a whole year, I wouldn't read Invincible. I'd pick it up, I'd bag and board it, it'd go in my box, and then after like a year and a half, then I'd read like 10 to 15 issues. And that's sort of how I got started. Was like it was sort of an accident where I would like I'm saving Invincible, and then I would read it, and then I'd save it, and then I'd read it. And then we got down to like it's like the day I'm going through and catching up, and I realized I'm like, oh man, these are like the last four. And then I was like, okay, we'll just save these. And it's it's like 5 or 6 years later, and I still haven't read them yet. And I've been very fortunate not to be spoiled because I've had customers be like, but like and I'm like, no, like Jim Carrey and like liar like throwing myself away dramatically, like I can't hear what you have to say. But on your advice, I will go and I will read the last 4 issues of Invincible, so I can finally talk about it with all the Invincible fans at Coliseum Comics, because there are plenty. They will be very happy to hear that I finally finished it, so they can finally talk to me about the ending 4 years later, 5 years later, whatever it's been.
Only if you want to. I don't want to feel like I talked you into this.
If anybody was going to talk me into reading the last 4 issues of Invincible, to be the creator of Invincible, right? Like if my wife came to me and this was like, you should read those last 4, I'd be like, babe, I love you, but like, no, I'm not going to do it. But like Robert Kirkman coming to me and saying like, yeah, man, like finish the book. It's like, I don't think I could like, this would be like Joshua Williams being like, hey, did you finish Night Terrors? And me being like, no, Joshua Williamson, I'm gonna go finish Night Terrors now. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go after this and finish Invincible.
Yes, I'm excited.
Right.
Think about how much joy that one customer had when they went and they read Void Rivals and they saw there was a Transformer in there, and they came and they talked to you about it and they were so pumped. That is gonna be you getting to finish this. You're gonna be so pumped. You're gonna be so full of joy. It's a good ending. You're gonna be very happy.
Or what would be hilarious is if you're like, I built this up way too much. This ending blow.
Yeah. He's all meh. He just sends Robert an email that's just meh.
This wouldn't have done anything if I was on my worst day. This wouldn't have helped at all.
Yeah. All right, well, guys, we got way into the weeds there. You guys are some of my favorite comics creators of all time. I can't believe this. We got to do this. Transformers #1 in stores tomorrow. We've got Duke in December 27th. So just a couple days after Christmas, you give yourself a late Christmas present there. And then Cobra Commander is January, what Wednesday?
I don't think any of
I
them
don't know. Yeah.
I'm going to say it's January 12th.
FOC for it. If you want to order it at Coliseum Comics, you have until Christmas Eve, because that's the FOC that it's on. So make sure you get your orders for Cobra Commander #1 in by Christmas Eve. So that you can pick it up at some point in January that we know it's coming out. In one of those 4 weeks, that is January 2024. It'll be out.
Yeah.
Right.
Guys, again, thank you so much. This has been awesome. This is like the coolest thing that's ever happened.
No,
Good time.
a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.